Hello everybody. In this video, I wanted to talk about three things that I thought were very interesting because I'm sure there are more things like this in life that have to do with basic opinion. And there's no real scientific or objective consensus as to how to deal with these things or how to carry them out, how to execute them, what's the correct actions or methodologies in which to do these things. And of course, I'm talking about diet, the teaching learning process, and how to live longer, how to live past like 70, 80, right? Into like your 90s or even above 100 years old. Now, everybody has different opinions on these topics. They have different thoughts on how to carry them out. I believe some are right, some are wrong. I believe there are more right people in some things, there are more wrong people in other things. But I thought in this video I'd talk a little bit about what I think regarding these topics. It is a little bit hot, so I'm going to be doing this every once in a while. So I thought that, I'd also invite you to go ahead and post in the comments what your thoughts are on diet, the teaching learning process, and how to live longer. So I'm going to start off with diet first. Diet, I think, and for me, diet and how to live longer are kind of correlated. Um, there was another topic I believe I had in mind. I hope in this video it comes out if I do have it, but I think the third one was how to live longer. Now, diet for me, it basically means in order to have like a good diet, you need to be a person that is constant. You need to basically have like a regular pattern for your body, right? And for food in general. I'm talking about the times in which you eat, the food that you eat, how much of it you eat, right? Like there has to be consistency. There has to be a constant, habitual process in which you do these things, like a routine, right? Why? Because I believe that if you are irregular, like let's say today you ate at, you didn't have breakfast, you ate at 12 and then you had a snack at 10. And then tomorrow you have a big breakfast at 8 and then you eat at 3 and then you have a big dinner, right? Your body's going to be like, what the hell are you doing? So you basically have to be consistent in terms of eating almost the same thing every day, at around the same times, right? And also, there are some other things that I'm going to consider, like some people may say no to alcohol, to beer, and to sugar. Now, I think everybody knows the thing about wine, how they say, oh, well, a glass of wine, right, which is alcohol, a glass of wine is good once a day, just one glass every day, right? And then some people say no meat, like the vegetarians, and other people say meat. Some people say no sugar. Some people say, no beer. Even though I think beer has other benefits. So I don't know, right? Like all of this is subjective. I think it may be like psychologically also, like people have different psychological needs which are met. Some may be even like darker, not darker, but maybe related more with like Freud's ideas of like, people that need to eat snacks, or people that need to, for example, like masturbate compulsively or things like that, right? Which I think are things that don't harm anybody as long as it doesn't harm others or yourself, right? In detrimental ways, I say, green light, go ahead and do it. But so I'm saying this because of the alcohol thing, which where some people will say no alcohol, no sugar, which I think sugar is like beneficial, especially if you're having a bad day. Not if you're depressed, but let's say you're having a bad day, just eat some candy and you'll probably feel better, right? For me, lately, I think it ultimately comes down to fiber, right? I need to have fiber. Now, diet also means regularly going to the bathroom, right? At regular times, right? Like if you go in the morning and then after lunch or whatever, or after dinner, right? Like doing that consistently, right? That's also part of your diet. You see, like diet involves a lot of things. It involves the food you eat, at what time you eat, at what time you go to the bathroom, right? Um, And in this case, I wrote down always wake up at the same time and try to go to sleep at the same time. I don't really think this has a lot to do with diet. I think this has more to do with how to live longer. But again, it's the same idea of being consistent, of being constant, of having that routine and that habit for your body, right? It basically boils down to your body being familiar with what you do to it, right? And I guess we'll find out if I'm right if I get to live to be like 150, 200 years old or something like that, right? Okay. Also, drink lots of water. I think this is particularly a good tip for men. I'm in my 30s, but I know that prostate's a thing as soon as you hit like your 50s, or something like that, like in as early as your 40s, or some people until they're in their 60s, they may start having problems with their prostate. And I believe this comes down to the idea or the lack of action of men and water, right? Of not consuming enough water in your day, right? Because again, it has to be a routine. It's not like, I'm exercising and I play some sports with my friends and I drink water. Like, you have to drink water every day, no matter what you're doing, right? So I think that, because prostate is basically when your prostate, I think, swells up because it's dry, right? And it's dry because you haven't been feeding it water for decades, right? So again, this comes back to drinking water from when you're young, right? Personally, I don't drink any soda. I think soda is poison. And I really don't see any benefit in it, unless you're out and you want to have like a can of soda, like once every like blue moon, right? Once every 3 months or something like that, or 2 months, or you order pizza and you want to drink soda with pizza, go right ahead. But I know there are people that will drink soda regularly for no reason, like they drink water. So they'll drink like a can of soda a day or something like that, with no food, just like that. Like, I want a can of soda, or I want a bottle of soda, Pepsi, Coca Cola, whatever. If you're drinking it for like coffee, like in the morning to get energy, or in the afternoon as a boost, I understand that. I can see that. But again, I think if you just drink it like kind of like to drink it, I think that's kind of bad. Um, okay, and I try to get some apples and bananas in every day, so fruit and veggies. I'm trying to get more veggies in, especially because of the fiber thing. Now, in terms of junk food, personally, I think junk food does have a place in life, especially on the weekends. I think if you eat healthy during the week, Monday to Friday, and then like Saturday or Sunday, you want to go ahead and grab a pizza or a burger or something like that, I think that's fine, right? I actually think that's necessary, because if you're eating healthy home cooked meals every day, I think that can also be detrimental for you some way. Maybe not health physically wise, but maybe psychologically, right? Especially if you're used to it, or if you got used to it, like us 90s kids that got hooked to it thanks to Happy Meals, Ronald McDonald's, and McDonald's in general. And now they switch up they make it all like fancy and minimalistic. McDonald's like shops and McDonald's restaurants. And again, they keep targeting us because now we're in our 30s, right? And yeah, so that's basically McDonald's. So yeah, I eat junk food on the weekends or here and there. Again, this would work for someone, I think, in their 30s, kind of like me. But for another age, it might be different. If you're younger, you might be popping soda pops like all the time. Or if you're older, you may say, no, like I can't have junk food because of the fat or whatever, right? Now I'm going to get into the teaching and learning process, which again, opinions differ. How is it that you learn? How should you teach, right? What I think is that you should use your unconscious, right? Because you're not going to retain all that information. You're not going to be like rote learning where you're repeating everything and memorizing everything mechanically, the traditional method, right? You're going to need to use your unconscious. So the way in which you use your unconscious is you expose yourself to all of the information through different means. you practice through different means. And I made a video on this. I've spoken on this a lot, which is the incubation process. So this is basically how you pick up a language, how you learn a second language. Imagine a person that's in Mexico, or has always lived in Mexico, and they want to learn English. So they travel to the United States. They're exposed to English all of the time, and they're trying to use it and understand people and get themselves, get their point across to other people. This is the best way, right? They're not literally studying like the verb to be or the present simple. They're just exposing themselves and they're acquiring it. Now, that's for speaking and listening, but for writing and reading, they're probably going to have to go to school or at least study on their own for that, right? But that's for any language at any moment. Babies, kids do that. They learn when they're with their family members, with their friends, whatever. They learn to speak and listen. But then when it comes to reading and writing, literacy levels are measured in school, right? They're taught in school. So again, different means basically that you need to expose yourself to videos, articles. You got to read about it. You got to meditate it. You got to journal it. You got to ask questions. You got to talk about it with other people, right? So read a lot. Give yourself time to think about what you're studying, right? About what you want to learn. Ask other people questions related to what it is that you're learning. And you need time alone to study. This is huge because a lot of people can't be alone, right? They're always interacting with someone. They're always busy or whatever. That's a bad thing for learning because learning requires you to be alone at times, right? I mean, you could socialize the knowledge, but again, you're going to have to be alone to really take it in, to really make it your knowledge, right? And of course, they say teaching others is the best way to learn. So teach others what you learn through conversations or videos, right? Like I am right now making videos. I think this is a good way to learn, also to review, and also to come back to it eventually and see what you were talking about, what you were thinking back then, your ideas, the knowledge that you had. Now, that's for theoretical knowledge. Practical knowledge is a little bit different because the know-how knowledge, like let's say you need to learn how to ride a motorcycle or you need to learn how to swim. Well, for that, there's YouTube, right? Like I learned how to ride my motorcycle using YouTube videos. And I didn't learn it overnight. It wasn't like just I'm gonna watch a couple YouTube videos and I'm gonna learn it right away. No, like I had to watch like a lot of YouTube videos, and you have to constantly be practicing it. So it took me like 3 or 4 weeks like of practicing, and you'll fail. But again, that's the only way to really acquire practical know-how, hands-on knowledge, right? You have to keep on trying and keep trying until you get it right? Now, we can associate this a little bit with inductive teaching because inductive teaching is basically like figuring it out for yourself, right? Deductive is like the teacher teaches you something and then you just go ahead and do the same thing, right? It's kind of like imitation. You copy, you're like a copycat. But inductive is like you're basically self-taught, right? I want to learn how to knit. I want to learn how to play a guitar. So I do my own research. I figure it out on my own. I practice on my own, right? Until I kind of get it right? So again, for the know-how knowledge, you need to apply the inductive method, which is basically like you're putting the pieces together, right? Nobody's teaching you. Nobody's telling you what to do, or I mean, you are watching videos, so they are telling you, but at the end of the day, you're the one that needs to do it, right? You're the one that needs to figure it out. You're the one that needs to fail, and it's trial and error, they say. So it's through trial and error. You try and then you fail and then you learn and then you try again and then you do better next time. Okay, and the last one is how to live longer. There's a great video I recommended on YouTube of Richard Overton. He already died, passed away, rest in peace. But he was the video is called 109-Year-Old Veteran by National Geographic, and he's a Taurus like I am. So he basically talks about how he's been able to live that old, and I mean he's completely functional in the video. He's driving, he's talking, he's smoking his cigars and drinking his glass of alcohol, I think is whiskey or something like that, every day. He's socializing, he's talking, he's a veteran. at 109 years old, right? And again, I think it's consistency. It's the routines, right? It's getting your body used to a certain lifestyle and committing to it, right? And not being all disruptive and destabilizing your body, right? So um, for me, I think the first thing would be limit drinking alcohol to 1 day a week, right? Be constant with your body because it doesn't like irregularity, or it's more difficult for your body to adapt, right? When it gets disrupted. Because every time you change something, you change your routine, for example, your body needs to readjust, and that consumes energy that, and then you may change it again and change it again. And I think that's just bad. Um, so yeah, I recommend that video because as a Taurus, I can see that that guy probably did the same things every day. He had a routine established, and I think that's what made him live that long. He lived up to, I think, 112 years old. He died in 2018. So yeah, that's a great achievement. I think not obviously when I talk about getting old, I don't mean getting old and you know having to have people take care of me. I'm talking about getting old and still being completely functional, being completely independent and, still doing things in life, right? And the last thing I want to touch on is related to how to live longer. Be in touch with technology, right? Like right now, I just watched all of Lex Friedman's 8 hour, I think they were like 5 interviews of the guy who had Nolan. He had his first Neuralink chip implanted on him, in his brain, and right now it's the early stages of all of this transhumanism, the fusion between technology and humans to improve human life. But maybe I don't know. Who knows? In like 50, 60 years, when I'm like 80, 90, we may have advanced, or we may have taken huge leaps in medicine and technology. And I would give myself like an implant or something that's needed for my health, right? For sure. So yeah, be in touch with technology, see the landscape, how it's evolving, how it's moving around, because that's probably the thing that's going to help us get past 109, 110, 120, right? Maybe even up to 150, 200. I think people are skeptical about this because they see it as something impossible at the current time in history in 2024, 2025. But you got to think back, like many years ago, people thought that people couldn't live past 30, 40 years old, right? People would die at 30, at 40. And now people live up to 90, right? Life expectancy, I think, is 78 around the world, 80. How do you go from 30 to 80? We can easily be going now from 80 to 130, especially with, technology. Like my grandparents one of them lived up to 99, and my grandpa and one of my other grandmas lived up to 80, 82 or 83, I think. I was checking out their graves just this past week. And they were born in the 1900s. They died in the 2000s. So, if you're born in the 1990s, 2000s, right, you could probably live like well past the year 2100, right? Who knows? But yeah, that's all I got for this video. Let me know what you think. Let me know what your tips are on these topics. I think they're controversial topics, again, because everybody, especially when you get involved with diet and nutriologists and people like dietarians or those vegetarians, like all those people, they all have their opinions. Everybody has their opinions, and I think there's no objective truth. There are things, like I said, that are more righter than others. But yeah, that's all I got for this video. Let me know, and I'll see you in the next one. All right, peace.